Hi, this week we're talking to one of the star clean tech companies in our portfolio, and I'll just hand over to Christoph to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Christoph Birkl. I'm CEO and co-founder of Brill Power. I have a background in engineering. I studied environmental engineering in Innsbruck in Austria, and then moved on to study fuel cells and sustainable energy technologies at the Technical University in Denmark, really getting into energy storage and conversion, realizing that this is a key component of the renewable energy system. And then I moved on to study lithium-ion batteries at the Engineering Science Department at Oxford with Professor David Howie. And that's also where I met my co-founders. And together we created the technology that now has allowed us to spin out and commercialize Brill Power.
So Christoph, you mentioned that during your PhD, you're working with your co-founders in the university department at Oxford. So what was the problem that you identified during that work? And what is the problem now that Brill Power is trying to solve?
Yeah, so we were all working on different areas of lithium-ion batteries. And myself, I was focusing on degradation in lithium-ion batteries during my PhD. And as part of my studies, I opened up a whole bunch of discarded battery packs that I got out of the bin from the physics department just to figure out what made them fail. And I found that in most packs, actually only one or two battery cells were faulty and the rest were still perfectly usable. So the problem there was in the battery management system, or BMS, which is essentially a piece of electronics that controls how batteries are charged and discharged. And the way that conventional battery management systems are designed, the performance and the lifetime of the whole battery system can be limited by one weakest cell in the system. So we came up with a better BMS design and the algorithms and software alongside it to increase the lifetime of lithium-ion batteries by up to 60%.
So Christoph, obviously, we have lithium-ion batteries in our phones and also in electric cars now. But how large is the opportunity for Brill Power's technology? I mean, both here and in the UK and also globally.
Right. So at Brill Power, we are focusing on large battery systems. And at the highest level, we divide our target markets into stationary energy storage and electric vehicles. And so for the large-scale stationary energy storage market in the UK, we estimate the value of battery management systems at more than £70 million in 2020 for projects that are ready to build. And if you include the projects with planning permissions, the opportunity is more than 5 times larger, just about under £400 million. And then the opportunity for UK-made passenger electric vehicles, we estimate to be roughly around £6 million in 2025, and that's based on a licensing model of our BMS, and assuming we get to supply to 2 electric vehicle manufacturing lines. And this does not include multinational OEMs such as Nissan, who manufacture their cars in multiple locations in the UK and elsewhere. So just looking at UK manufacturers. And globally, the opportunity is huge for lithium-ion batteries and rapidly growing. And we expect the total market size for battery management systems alone in both stationary energy storage and electric vehicles to grow to about £6 billion by 2025.
So Christoph, there you mentioned a couple of markets. You mentioned energy stationary storage and you mentioned electric vehicles, and you also mentioned licensing. So what exactly are the products that you're offering and how are you going to sell those?
Right, so our first product we will sell to innovative energy storage system developers as a hardware plus software package. And that will give them competitive advantages that include up to 60% longer battery life, lower lifetime cost, lower maintenance cost, and less system complexity because a battery pack with our BMS can directly hook up to solar panels, for example, so simple to install systems. And on top of that, improved safety. And then in the longer term, for higher volume customers, that includes automotive OEMs, we will offer the product as a technology license, including both hardware and software aspects. And to clarify a bit more about what's the hardware and what's the software bit. So the hardware really is the electronics that connect directly to the battery cells and that do all the controls and control the pack in terms of its charge and discharge. And the software includes both embedded software that tells all the electronic components how to behave, as well as higher level software algorithms that decide how the battery is being charged and discharged in an optimal way.
That's brilliant, Christoph. So what stage is the company at the moment? And what are some of the key challenges that you're facing now and that you're going to be facing sort of towards the next 12 to 18 months?
Yes, so our company is still at the pre-revenue stage, and we are developing our first product, ideally for launch early next year for stationary energy storage systems. So we're already working with partners to demonstrate our prototypes in their environments and with their battery systems for stationary storage. And for electric vehicles, the development takes a little bit longer, but we're also engaged in R&D projects for first demonstrators of our tech in this industry. And first product will come a few years later in the electric vehicle industry. And that sort of brings me to one of our big challenges at the moment, which is that as a technology B2B business, we have to integrate our products right at the design stage with the technology of our potential customers. And we're overcoming this a challenge in part through collaborative R&D projects, which are often grant funded. One example is the Faraday Battery Challenge that we're funded through. And we're already working with some of those potential customers through these R&D projects like Delta Motorsport and Aston Martin to demonstrate the benefits of our tech. But the good bit is once a customer adopts our technology, we expect it to generate sticky revenues, since it'll be costly for them to change their designs to match a competitor's product and technology. And another challenge that we're experiencing at this stage, and I think would be quite common to a lot of startups in our stage of development, is we're rapidly growing our team right now. And it's always challenging to find the brightest minds in an industry who also fit in with your company culture.
So Christoph, I'm going to bring up the big C, COVID-19. How are you guys coping with this, and what sort of strategies are you putting in place to mitigate the effects of it that it's having upon your company?
Yeah, that's really a challenge that's affecting us all, isn't it? And currently for us, the most severe impact are actually the social distancing requirements in our lab specifically, being a company that also develops hardware. We had to halve our lab occupancy, which is impacting the speed of our hardware development quite a lot. So we're now investigating whether it's financially feasible for us to turn more office space and meeting rooms into additional lab space, so it can allow more people in to work together on hardware development. And although we're managing to get a lot done remotely, luckily, especially in software development, which makes up a major part of our tech development, remote working does have its limitations, and we tend to spend a lot more time on calls to coordinate everybody's work and make sure everybody's on the same page. And that's something, I think that's not going to change much in the near future, but we are getting a lot more used to it, and we're getting better at it and more efficient at figuring out the things that we really have to discuss and the things that we don't. And then finally, there are obviously big uncertainties around market appetite for new technology, and also availability of venture funding in times of economic crisis. But luckily, most of our development partners, as I've mentioned through our R&D projects, for example, are continuing to work with us, which is a really great sign, because it comes at a time where everybody has to prioritize their absolutely most important work. And as for venture funding sources, we've actually enjoyed a great show of confidence in our business already, as we completed a second close of our seed round in April at the height of the crisis with OIC, as a matter of fact, which we're really happy about. And what also gives me confidence is that we've got a strong and diverse base of investors who are really aligned with our long-term vision, and they're well connected in the space. And that, I think, puts us into a good spot for our Series A next year.
And so now, Christoph, we might move on a little bit. So obviously you guys are an Oxford University spinout. Sort of what are the advantages that you've found of being a spinout from the University of Oxford?
So Oxford University as a university obviously enjoys a great reputation, and I would lie if I said that this didn't open many a door for us in the past few years. But I would say that one of the greatest advantages really of being an Oxford spinout for us was that was the excellent team that we got to start out with, and the support that we received at an early stage from our research group and our supervisor, Professor David Howie specifically, in the early days of forming the company. And without the support, the company wouldn't really exist and wouldn't have spun out. And we also continue to recruit some of our best talent from Oxford as well, not least from Dave's group. And then you've also got the growing Oxford startup ecosystem, and that includes two of our investors who are very familiar with and equipped for supporting deep tech companies. And you really feel that that makes a difference as a startup. And beyond that, we've enjoyed the support of other organizations like the Side Business School that run mentorship programs and entrepreneurial programs that are open to access for other university students and entrepreneurs. We've enjoyed support from the Foundry, who does similar work, actually came out of, in part of the Side Business School, and ultimately of Oxford University Innovation, the technology transfer service, who's been supporting us and who are also in touch regularly and also are hosting some really good networking events that are very much to our benefit.
Great. And perhaps just sort of stepping away from Brill Power as an organization for the moment and focusing on you personally. As a CEO, I mean, what are some of the most challenging and rewarding things that you find about leading a small company?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest challenges is that if you're creating something truly new and innovative and different that nobody's done before, you're really in uncharted waters much of the time. So there aren't really any blueprints or precedents you can follow. You're sort of making it up as you go to an extent, and you never know exactly the time or resources you need to develop certain aspects of your technology or your business, and you have to fill in these gaps with your own and your team's best assessments. And this can be quite daunting, but it's also exciting and extremely rewarding once you've accomplished the goals that you set yourself. And you're really the first company in the world to get there and to achieve these things. And then sharing and celebrating these accomplishments and successes with the team more widely, that's definitely one of the most rewarding aspects of my job.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I suppose what we're all working towards here is, the grand vision of Brill Power. I mean, what is your vision and what is the founder's vision for the company? Where would you sort of like to see it in 3 to 5 years' time?
Yeah, my vision for Brill Power is that our technology becomes the new gold standard for battery systems. That makes them more affordable and sustainable, and by extension, really drives adoption of renewable energy technologies in all aspects of our lives, be it in more sustainable homes, more sustainable power use, or more sustainable transport. That is my vision for the company.
That's fantastic. I think here at OIC, we certainly share that vision as well, and we're along for the journey right behind you. Thanks very much, Christoph, for joining us this week. It's been brilliant to have a conversation, brilliant to learn a bit more about the company and also sort of a little bit more about you as well. Thanks very much.
Great. Thanks very much, Freddie. Great to chat.